afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm with the champion, Mr. Tony Drilleba. This man is a five-time champion with the City Oil basketball team. He's a coach with the I Hoops Kids Academy. Uh, he formerly, of course, of Abacode. Tony, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you here today. You can say hello to the viewers.
Good evening, everyone. Absolute pleasure for me to be here this evening.
Well, Tony, really happy you've joined us here today, and I just want you to tell us briefly why you picked basketball amongst all sports in the world.
First of all, the way I started basketball was very influential in me continuing in the game. I was introduced to it at a very young age. My brother, I used to go with my brother and I'd watch him play, and I saw how much fun they had every time they played, and I figured this is something that I definitely had to try out.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So influence from your brother.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. So tell us about your basketball history.
I started playing in my primary five. That was 2003, I believe. I went on, of course, to play in high school or Mango Senior School. I won one championship for the school in 2011. I went on to join Abacode, African Ball and Community Development, in Division 3 at the time. I played there for 3 years before I joined the cityoilers, for whom I'm playing to this day.
Okay. So you're one of the talents Uganda has produced. I remember the last time Uganda participated in an international tournament that was in Uganda. You were one of the players picked on the national team. I mean, you guys were like 14, 12, and you're one of them who was picked. You started on one of the games. In general, I can say your talent Uganda has produced like in a very short time. Usually, people in the national team are people who have been there for a long time. So, what was the difference like for your high school, growing up playing basketball? What was different compared to others?
I think, of course, starting early gave me an edge, because when I started playing with my peers in high school, most of them were just starting out playing the game, and I had already had maybe 3-4 years prior experience to playing, so it was easy for me playing in high school. Then, of course, as we progressed, playing in the Division 3, Division 2, and the NBL, the competition varies, so there have been years of progress, growing every other year.
Okay. So, what is the difference between, because you just said you played in Division 3, Division 2, and now you're in the NBL. What's the difference between all leagues?
Lately, the Division 2 is actually really competitive. Those are some of the most interesting games to watch. In the NBL is competitive, but it's always the same, maybe 5-6 teams that are dominating. You have teams going into games knowing they're already going to lose. I mean, you're coming up against the defending champions or last year's finalists.
Yeah.
Even when you play against them on the court, you can tell from some of the body language of the players, they know they're going to lose. It's competitive, yes, but only among maybe the top 6 in the NBL. The Division 2 and Division 3, the D League now, it's very competitive. Anyone can take a game on a given day.
Okay. So the decision to join City Oil, I mean, from Abacode to City Oil, like the top team in the country for the past, can I say, 7 years, what influenced you to join City Oil?
I think I just had the desire to take on a bigger challenge. It was a difficult decision because I was one of the pioneer players in Abacode, and I was playing with some of the guys that I played with since high school. So we had this bond that was very tough to break. It was a tough decision to move to the NBL, but I got very decent advice from some of the top players in the NBL who they helped me see the light on the other side, that it was time for me to try and take on a different challenge.
Okay. So tell us about Tony, the coach. You coach Angels basketball team in the NBL. Really, really successful this season. You're also one of the lead coaches at iHoops Basketball Academy. So tell us about Tony, the coach.
Personally, I have a passion for not coaching but teaching basketball. A lot of the time we see young players come up wanting to shoot like Curry, dunk like LeBron, step back like Harden, and most of them are ignoring or they don't see the importance of basic fundamental basketball. And when you give them a platform to play, say, international competitions, they don't have the basic know-how on how to play against some of the top countries in Africa or even the world. Just because the grassroots, the challenges from the grassroots, we don't have people that teach basketball. So I have a passion to teach basketball so that we have the next generation of players that are fundamentally sound in the sport. Where we'll come up against teams even if we're not the most talented, but if we are decent enough fundamentally, it gives us a good chance to actually compete.
Yeah. So you coach Angels and it's also in the NBL. How do you balance playing for Angels and City Oil at the same time?
Fortunately, the practice days are different, the training days. So I have training in City Oil Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. The practice days for Angels are Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So at least I have the time to work with both. When it comes to games, if we have games on the same day, it's usually tricky because of game day routines and all that. But fortunately, there's also an assistant coach at Angels, so I do as much as I possibly can. And then, if I have a game after, I take my leave maybe before the game ends, and the assistant coach will take over and finish up on it.
Okay, you coach girls. Of course, there are very many challenges. As a man, when coaching a girls team, what are some of those challenges you face?
Women can be difficult. Everyone knows this. Some of the challenges, of course, are with mood swings. Sometimes I'm not that old, and some of the ladies I coach are older than I am, so they look at you sometimes like you're a child. But fortunately for me, with Angels, we've instilled a very solid culture. We leave whatever moods outside the four lines of the court. If you step on court and you're acting funny, we just send you home. So I'm fortunate enough to be working with this group of ladies that understand what we stand for and what we want to achieve. So they make it a whole lot easier for me.
Okay, tell us about your experience with the national team.
It's been surreal. That's the least I can say. I had the chance to work with Coach Dean. He's a great coach. He's a very good one-on-one developmental coach. He knows how to instill confidence in players. The time I was called to play the tournament you mentioned earlier, I'd had a good season up to that point, and he had watched the games, and he saw something maybe most of the other coaches have not seen before, and he called me up, and he got me to a point where I could actually start all the games during that tournament. And from then on, it's just been up and up for me. That experience was really great. I was able to learn a lot from Coach Dean, and even working with some of the best players in the country. It's so much fun and very challenging as well.
Yeah. So tell us about the iHoops Basketball Academy for kids. Living in a third world country, when people sometimes come up with with organizations like that, you of course set a fee for each kid to participate, and some people go like, these guys just want to eat our money. So, what is the motive behind iHoops?
Actually, at iHoops, you'll find over half the campers do not pay because these are kids that come and they have financial constraints. They come from a family that can't really afford to pay the daily fee for them to attend the camp. And iHoops is focused on development of the game amongst the children, the kids. And that's the main focus. If someone comes and they can't pay, they're not sent away. We allow them to actually be part of the program the whole week. Because we know we all face different challenges wherever we come from. So for us, I hope the main focus is growing the game.
Okay. Yeah. So if one is to bring their kids to iHoops, what is the plan?
Well, we just come around, sign in at the registration table.
Yeah, like venue.
Yeah. Usually we have the camp at Lugogo, the indoor arena.
Okay.
That's if it's available. Every time it's available, we have it at Lugogo. There was once last year that we had it at ISU. Yeah, when Lugogo was unavailable. But ideally, it's usually at the arena.
So it's every weekend, or?
Now that's the week. There's a weekend program, but then there's also the 1 week long program. The weekend program is at Silver Springs Hotel every Saturday from 10, I believe. So every weekend, every Saturday, you can come with your kids. Same thing, you'll sign them in, and there'll be assigned coaches, and they'll have fun.
Okay. So you're part of City Oil, and City Oil is one of the most successful teams in Ugandan sports history. I want you to tell us about the City Oil management. How special or different are they?
The two gentlemen at the helm of City Oil, Mr.santur and Mr. Hassan, are they're hungry for success. For them, just winning never stops. They're never satisfied with what we win. They're always pushing us to do better. Even the games that we win, we celebrate, yes, but for the most part, they're helping us see where we could actually do better. Because they're hungry for success. They're hungry to see the team reach levels that have never been seen before. Their aim is to establish a legacy. This generation of City Oil to set a standard that might take very many years to actually break. They are result oriented. Of course, they push us to show up for every practice, be on time for every game, take care of our bodies, and just be in a position to perform for the team every time. And at the start of every season, our objective is always the same. Go out there, play, and win. Qualify maybe for the regional tournaments and hopefully the international tournaments. So they're very hungry for success.
There's a gentleman people always talk about. I don't know if he really exists. There's someone called Haji, both on the City Oil team and the national team. And I mean, like right now, the City Oil team has been successful, and so is the national team. Ever since I hear they handed over the national team to Haji, success has just kept on following the national team. So who is this Haji man we always hear about?
His name is Mr.santur Gedi. He's the City Oil and national team manager. Now, for many that may not know, this is a gentleman that's very passionate about basketball. He is so intentional in his actions to see the game grow. This is someone that has lived in Uganda for quite a while, even though his roots are not really Ugandan. He has grown to love the country, to love the game, and he now has a passion to see the game grow in Uganda. He has invested a lot of money, a lot of his time in seeing the sport grow. He's behind almost all the national team trips. He's making sure things happen for us. He's all over the place, because he has a passion for the game, especially to see the game in Uganda grow.
Then again, Still City Oil, still the national team. There's one man called Mande Juroni. You also work with him. What is special about Mande? He's one of the best that has ever coached in Uganda.
Uh, I honestly don't know how to describe Mande. He's a very smart coach. Um, I think so far we failed to find a coach that will match up to his wits. You know, he's really smart. A lot of the time, there are things he says, there are plays he draws up that are so situational that just they show that he has a basketball mind. You know, he's a very very special coach. He can dig even the worst team out of a hole and put them at a point that they never expected to be at.
Okay.
He's a very very special coach.
Okay, I personally think you are blessed working with Stephen Omon. That is one of the greatest that has ever played the game in Uganda. I've had like many guys who have come on the show here. I ask them, who's your role model? Even the ladies say Stephen Omon. You've worked with Stephen Omon and Jimmy Enabu. What are you learning from those two? I mean, you're getting it there and then from the best. Tell us about Jimmy and Omon.
Jimmy, I'll start with Jimmy. Jimmy is very competitive. He's a very competitive player. It's so much fun going up against him at practice, but also it's so much fun talking to him, sharing with him basketball ideas. You know, he's also watching him play. I used to watch him play. And now getting to play with him and sometimes against him, really studying how he plays shows he is one of the quickest thinkers on court. He's so good at reading situations, you know, and creating advantages for himself and for the team. He's so special with that in that regard, you know, and he's so quick, you know. So he sees a gap and he's going to exploit it. And he's going to create an advantage for the whole team. You know, he's working with him has been unbelievable. You know, I used to watch him when I was in high school, when he was at UCU. He was so much fun to watch, you know. But being able to work with him has been a completely different experience altogether. You know, he's straightforward. He's very willing to share. He loves seeing players improve. You know, so the whole time he's always talking to you. You know, trying to help you see how to better yourself as a player, even as an individual off the court. He's just all around amazing. Honestly, for me, he's top three, top three in the country. But that's then Steve. Steve is he's a motivator. He's with Steve around. It doesn't matter how far down you are in a game or in the season. He always helps you see the light. You know, he's. I think now at the stage he reached in his basketball career, he got a very deep understanding of the game. You know, and to him, just from talking to him, I was able to pick that for him it's more than just the playing. He brings passion.
Yeah.
You know, when he talks, when he motivates, everything he does has so much passion. He gives you that drive. You know, he gives you that energy even when you feel you don't have anything left. You know, you look at him and he'll look back and he'll say one or two things that will just re-energize you. You know, so for Steve, it's passion, and he's so down to earth. You know, you'd think for someone that has traveled around the world, won as many accolades as he's won, you'd think he'd put himself up there on a pedestal, but he's really so down to earth. So it's been amazing working with him as well.
Okay. So where do you see the league in the next 10 years in terms of talent development?
That's a tricky question. Because right now we don't have mentorship programs. You know, you'd think maybe okay, we have iHopes Academy. I know there's the JKL Academy. We have all these academies going around, but that's not enough. We have to have mentorship programs where we have the top players in the country take on groups of players, and try and skill them to play maybe the way they've played in their career or even better. And that's the only way that we'll have the league improve. It will be competitive, yes, because as we've seen over the last 3 years, there have been so many changes to make the league better, which is a good thing. But in terms of the competition, we still have quite a lot to do.
Okay. So let me get a little bit personal. I've been asking you a lot about Haji, Umon, Jimmy, Joruni. Let me get a little bit personal. What is your go-to move when you're on the basketball court?
Offensively, defensively,
Offensively.
I don't really have a go-to move. I just like playing situational basketball. You read how the defender is playing, and you use whatever gap they're giving you to beat them.
Okay, let me rephrase the question.
Please.
What is the easiest way you can score when you have the ball?
I feel like the 3-ball is very comfortable for me.
Thank you.
Honestly, yeah, the 3-ball is.
So that's your go-to move.
Yeah.
Okay. Who is the toughest opponent that has ever guarded you or you've gone against, offensively or defensively?
In here locally, the toughest player I've come up against is Ivan Inabu. In his prime, I got a chance to play him in his prime, and he was something else.
Okay.
Ivan Inabu. That's on both ends of the floor. He was a very explosive offensive player, impossible to guard, but he was also very sharp defensively. So on both ends of the floor, it's Ivan Inabu for me.
Then internationally?
Internationally, I'd say Foster. There's a player called Foster. He's in. We played against him in Cairo. He was playing for Libolo. It's an Angolan team. He was one of the best all-round players. That time we played against them anyway. He was a very special talent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me talk about NBA a little bit. Over to you. Your NBA starting 5 all time.
All-time starting 5. At point, I'd say Chris Paul. Shooting guard, I'd give it to Harden. 3-man, I'd go with. 3-man is a tough one because it's a stretch between LeBron and Kawhi. But I think I'd go with LeBron because he can stretch into 4. Center, I think I'd take Shaq in his prime, of course.
Yeah.
He was really special. And at 4-man, I think I'd go with Pippen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then that NBA player you look at and you're like, wow, I wish I would play like this.
2 players.
Yeah, that's okay.
Players. I'd go with Kawhi Leonard, of course. He's a talent on his own. And Chris Paul.
Okay.
Chris Paul. Yeah.
Then let's go local.
Mm-hmm.
Starting 5 all time NBL.
NBL all time starting 5. I'll take my teammates.
No, I do not want that.
Other than my teammates.
Yeah, of course. If you have 2, 3, it's okay.
Yeah.
But not the starting 5.
No, of course not. I can't even include myself in that.
Yeah, of course.
I'd go with Ben and Jimmy
Okay.
at 1 and 2. Omoy at his prime at 3. Then I'd go with the Malinga brothers at 4 and 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then that NBL or that Ugandan player, you're like, Jesus, where is he from?
Again, 2 players, my teammates. I'd say Jimmy and Ben. And this is talking about them in their prime.
Yeah.
These were very, very exciting.
But
players.
Jimmy's still in his prime.
He is. But there's, say, the Jimmy of 2014 to 2016, 17.
Okay.
He was something else. So yeah.
So, what has been your lowest point in your basketball career?
Uh, 2018. Um, that was the year my mom passed. She was very key in my basketball career. She was the first to ever really push me to actually play the game. And she was always supportive. Uh, she always prayed for me. She always encouraged me every time we lost a game. She was very instrumental in my basketball career. She passed in 2018, and it was like the middle of the year. The season is still just picking up. Coming back from that was really tough. The next couple of months after her passing were really difficult. Uh, but fortunately, at the end of the year, we won the championship.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the lowest point for me.
Okay. So, City Oil has actually taken the trophy for the last 7 years. So back then, I remember Power Falcons, Warriors were the teams to beat. The crowds were getting tired of them, but now the crowd is against City Oil. People are like, we are tired. So how are you guys dealing with that pressure?
The one thing everyone on the City Oil team understands is the game is played within the four lines. It doesn't matter how much noise the fans are making. The focus is always on playing within the four lines, and that's where our concentration is. A lot. Sometimes, of course, the crowd will get to you, get to some of the players. It happens. We're all human, but we understand how to play only within the four lines because over the years, like you said, people have gotten tired of us winning. And usually all we have is ourselves on that floor, and we are just within the four lines, and that's it for us. So all our focus is on just playing within the four lines and ignoring the crowds.
Okay. So you said you've won 5 championships. Which one was the hardest?
Um, I think the 2015 championship was the hardest. Playing against UCU, it was. I think that's the best UCU team of all time. We went all the way to Game 7. It was a very tough series, very very tough. It could have swung either way. So yeah, I think that was the toughest one.
Okay. So I want you to talk about UCU this year. I mean, UCU has been all over you guys in the past 5 years, like the time you've been there. UCU played an injured City Oil. They of course took you guys to Game 7, but they really had the manpower to beat you guys. Tell us about UCU this year in terms of on the floor and maybe off the floor. I don't know.
Um, we can't downplay the achievement getting as far as the finals. It's not something easy to reach the finals. So kudos to them. But I think, um, in my opinion, honestly, if we had not had the injuries that we had, it might have been an easier series for us. Probably would have taken it in 4 or 5 games. Um, I think for UCU, um, the immaturity played a very big factor for most of the players. This is the first time they're reaching the finals. They're playing to the crowd. A lot of the time, you're coming up against them, and they're playing erratic. They're making decisions that you'd not expect them to make. Most of the time they made playing so easy, because the things that they would do, if it were against someone that has been to the final maybe 2 or 3 times, it would have been a lot more difficult. So I think the inexperience really, really hurt them. Um, the games that they won were very close games, uh, and like you said, they came up against a depleted City Oil team, and they still struggled to beat us, primarily because of the immaturity. Uh, Game-wise, the experience wasn't really there. They have a good coach, without a doubt. but also I think there was no real plan B for them to, just in case we figured out their game plan, which happened in Game 7. Game 7 was almost a blowout because we finally figured out how to play them, and they didn't have a plan B. Yeah, so, but it was a good series. Showed us how old we're getting.
So, you picked up a very major injury, I think, before you traveled to Tanzania for that tournament.
Kigali.
Kigali, sorry. So, when you picked up that injury, the UC fans were like, the championship is ours. But after some time, we saw you're back, and of course, Jimmy being not very able to play like before, like because of his schedule, and Omon getting injured. Of course, James Okello and Landry they were there to back you up, and of course, Komakech Ben. When you got that injury, people were like, City Oil is done. After some time, you were like Paul Pierce, like you came back and really performed. So, tell us about the injury.
It was a very tough night, the night I got that injury. First, we all thought it was a fracture at first because it was that bad. It felt that bad. Fortunately, the scans showed it wasn't that bad. It was just a hairline fracture, which they said would take just a couple of weeks to heal. But of course, it rolled me out of the Kigali tournament, which was really tough because, again, it had been a very good year for me on the floor, and I was really looking forward to that international competition, an opportunity to play at that stage. And we had been preparing really well, so getting ruled out of that tournament was tough. And then losing at the tournament was even worse. So the objective, our goal changed from Kigali to finishing what we started here, so I could get another chance to play in Kigali by winning here. So after Kigali, I did a lot of physiotherapy with our doctor, team doctor then, and I also spent a lot of time on the court with our shooting coach, Coach Tendo. He would actually travel all the way across town to come and meet me to work out every morning, just so I'd be ready to play when the finals resumed. So that's how I was able to actually get back and be able to play the finals. Otherwise, if I'd just sat out, I wouldn't have finished the rest of the games in the series.
So, how important was Mr. Tendo Andrew, like in you getting you back like to the game on time?
When you get an injury, a lot of the time there's that mental factor. I don't really want to put weight on this leg. I might re-injure it. It's still a bit tender. So, but him actually committing like that every day of the week, every week throughout January to come and put in the time with me, it gets you thinking. This is someone that's committing to see you back on the floor. It shows you how important you are to the team. So I also readied myself mentally, and did as much as I possibly could to get myself in good shape to actually play the finals.
Okay. So, growing up in Uganda, once again, third one. When we are kids, our parents tell us we want you to become doctors, pilots, lawyers, businessmen. It depends. I know you faced like challenges from your parents. Tell us about it.
My dad initially did not want me to play. I committed a lot of my time to actually playing basketball. The first serious competition I had in basketball was in my senior 4. This is a crucial stage in your education life. And here I am telling him I had to go for, first of all, qualifiers over a whole weekend and then nationals for a whole week. And you're in senior 4, so he was against the idea of me going. He wanted me to focus a lot more on study. But like I said, my mom was always encouraging, and she talked to him and told him to let me go. And, she made him realize it could go anywhere, with the game. And then, of course, going into the A level and playing and winning a championship for the school and winning the MVP accolade that year, it made him realize that I was actually going somewhere with the game of basketball. And then getting scholarship opportunities from some of the best universities in the country, even some out of the country. It opened up their eyes, both of them, to really understand that the sport could actually take me somewhere. But it was a process from you can't play to seeing what it could actually do.
So, of course, without the COVID pandemic disease, what was your plan this season, individually and of course team-wise?
Individually, of course, play better than I did last season. Improve on my percentages. I think I was among the top 5 most efficient players in the league last season, but I felt I could do better than that. So the plan was to do better than that. As a team, the objective never changes. The objective never changes. Go out there, play the best basketball you possibly can, play to win another championship, set an even harder record to break. Play in the regional tournaments and qualify for the Basketball Africa League.
Okay. Then, of course, we're living in the COVID time. You can't access like sports grounds like basketball courts, gyms, all closed. How are you keeping fit?
I'm not. For us, there's always a lot. We play a lot of basketball, not just with City Oil national team. There's a lot of basketball, and most of the time when the basketball calendar ends, my body is so worn out, and yet there's a very limited window to rest before the next season starts or before the next competition. So it's always been a trick. And then even prior to the start of this season that was cancelled, postponed, hopefully, because of COVID, I was feeling tired. We had just played the finals in Jan. All that fatigue was still there. The body hadn't rested well. Some of the injuries were still there. So I figured, in a way, this was a blessing in disguise for me to actually take time off and really get my body to rest, and all these aches here and there to finally disappear. Yeah.
So, of course, we're living in the time of the pandemic once again. Very dangerous time. I mean, we have never experienced such a thing. Kids outside there, parents tell them the COVID is real, but of course they have some doubts. And people your fans, can I call them your fans? You're a role model. They have listened to the president, ministers outside there, but they still don't believe. I wish you would just look into the camera and talk to the viewers about how serious the COVID pandemic disease is, and like any ways of like for them to keep safe.
First of all, it doesn't matter what you believe, whether or not this disease is actually real. We've seen what our government can do. We've seen what the police can do. So just that alone should be motivation enough for you to follow whatever guidelines they've put in place. So please wear your masks, practice your social distancing, wash your hands as frequently as you can, irrespective of what your belief might be, because these are very difficult times. We've seen cases in these countries that have some of the worst hit countries, the way they're struggling, and the last thing we want is for Uganda to get to that level, because we know we don't really have the facilities to handle a proper outbreak, for it to go from a pandemic to an epidemic. So irrespective of what our beliefs are, we just have to stay patient, follow whatever has been put in place, and that will keep us out of trouble as well, not just protect us from the sickness. So let's just follow whatever has been put in place, do the best that we possibly can until this wave passes.
So I know Tony Drilleba for being a humble man. Of course, most players, okay, can I say all or most? I don't know. Most players in City Oil behave in a certain way. Like they respect themselves. You'll never hear City Oil players have been fun fighting. Maybe I don't know in some place. So of course you're a role model to lots of kids outside there. I mean the girls team, I Hoops Camp, the City Oil fans, national team fans. I know they want to be like you. People really love basketball and want to become because the story of just giving us is so tremendous. So I wish you would look into the camera once again and inspire. I mean, like to the crowd. I mean, to the viewers.
Uh, for every young player out there, basketball can open up so many doors. So if you're already taking part in the sport, playing the game, do the best that you possibly can to be the best that you can, because there are so many opportunities, uh, especially